Good afternoon, scientists of the fifth grade. This is Mr. Goodwin again. I'm going to be living inside your screen um, for the rest of the school year. Today's objective, make sure you're writing your objective at the one, two, three, at the second line of your notebook. You should be on a new page. Today's objective is I will predict how the introduction of a non-native species in an ecosystem will affect the population of the species in that area. You can pause this video as you need to write certain information down. But students, again, I will continue with the video. So, introducing the topic of invasive species, the introduction. Every animal and plant species has a native habitat, or environment where it naturally and normally lives and grows. Humans sometimes relocate a species either by accident or on purpose. Students, what do you think might happen if a species is moved out of its native habitat and into a new environment? Can you brainstorm if this is a species that is relocated? This picture right here, can you tell if that species was actually relocated or not? Invasive species. Invasive species are non-native species and introduce alien, exotic, non-indigenous, or non-native species are simply an introduction as a species living outside its native distributional range, which has arrived there by human activity. So if you see on the right-hand side of your screen right now, they said introduce species. These are two squirrels. If you see on the left, Simon, this is Martin. And he was talking to Simon right here. I'm sure that's supposed to be a porcupine. I love the authentic picture here. Simon, this is Martin, the gray squirrel. The gray squirrel is on the right. Has anybody seen a gray squirrel in their life? Nah, not me. I don't think your mom, your dad, or anybody in your family has ever. Because this is an example of an invasive species. Its natural habitat is not in the United States. So, we're going to talk about the negative consequences for people relocating species into another habitat. First, the species may become an invasive species or a species that may cause harm to the new environment. So I want you to write down the negative consequences, and I want you to write this line down in your notebooks. The species may become an invasive species or a species that cause harm to the new environment. As you see, that could be Mr. Goodman right there. Class, today we're going to study why it's bad to introduce invasive species. Now, let's look in this picture. Who's an invasive species here? Is it a human or is it the giant lobsters living in the water? Students, think about it. What's your natural habitat? And I'm going to ask you in about 20 seconds. Why do people relocate species? Well, students, I want you to brainstorm a list of 7 minimum reasons people relocate species. Examples. You cannot use the examples already given. I'll give you +4 for those people with the 7 brainstorm species on their exit ticket at the end of computer center station. So for your examples, you can now accidentally moving them, for example, through transportation or trade, or by student, or by moving firewood from one location to another, purposely introducing them to help control a native species that is considered a pest. For example, to control pests that destroy crops, which was an act during the early 1900s that brought over many various diseases. As you guys are learning about chickenpox, I'm sorry, not chickenpox, but smallpox in the early 1900s, and we studied about this last week, but you're learning about that in social studies as well. Another one is importing. Exporting is given out. Importing is taken in. Ornamental plants to buy or sell. Or importing animals as pets. We're going to find out about one pet that I don't think anybody will want in their house. Maybe some of you guys might love being adventurous and trying new things, but I know there's one animal that I wouldn't go across if in a million years. So for examples of invasive animal species, your first one is the European starling. The European starling. And if you want to split tap snap with this, European starling. European starling. This bird was part of an effort to introduce the U.S. all of the birds mentioned in the works of Shakespeare. You guys know, if you guys are fans of the American literature in the 1800s, Shakespeare was one of the most phenomenal, and still very much presently is one of the most phenomenal poem writers, play scripts, just author. He's such an authentic author. You guys will be learning about this later on in your educational experience. But the U.S., the fans, and everyone was dazzled and amazed with Shakespeare's work. And he wrote about the European starling, which made us Americans kind of intrigued to find out, or interested in finding out what exactly this bird is all about. Examples of invasive animal species. Guys, remember I told you about that pet that's a lot of you guys probably wouldn't want? Well, let's talk about it. Burmese pythons. Burmese pythons, these snakes are imported into the United States as pets. In Florida Everglades, released or escaped pythons have established themselves in the wild. Wow. Just imagine coming home to that gigantic snake. It wouldn't be would definitely not be a pleasant surprise. And I'm sure no one's parents would allow them to get such a gigantic snake. And some of these videos have shown like the Burmese pythons actually feeding on alligators in the wild. So they are actually definitely having a big effect on the wildlife for alligators, because they're not only preying on alligators, but they're also taking it away from their most consistent source of foods. Examples of invasive animal species. The snakehead fish. To the right I have a bowfin, which is a native fish for the American culture. It's short, anal fin, and which means the snakehead invasive, a long anal fin, which is the what we like to call the butt of the fish. So if you guys ever jump in the pond, you come across either one of these fish. Maybe you guys can tell the difference. But the fish was released into fish markets and has established themselves in the wild. Um, Something for us to prey on and eat. And I know you guys, some of you guys might love fish. I love fish myself. Uh, uh, Fish are filled with lots of proteins, but don't come across the wrong fish. And I'm sure this snakehead fish is something you've never seen in America. And our next one is the zebra mussel. This mussel attaches itself to boats and has spread because of boats moving between different bodies of water. They later showed a picture, one of the websites I was researching, of these mussels actually attacking a crab, attacking a lobster, attacking different varieties of species, which it definitely affects its ecosystem. The next one is the kudzu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A kudzu. This plant is climbing vine native to is a climbing vine, native to southern Japan and southeast China. Its growth is out of control in the southeastern United States. I know you guys, whoever visits the Lower Garden District, has seen these in the back of homes. I actually used to live in the Lower Garden District and had the exact same plants in my backyard. So it's very much real. These are definitely not natives. If you've seen in the past few years, your mother asked your mother or grandmother about these plants, they definitely didn't. Weren't an originator from the United States. Another example of an invasive plant species to the United States is the Adrian pampas grass. The Adrian pampas grass. This grass is native to the northern Andes, but is not a common weed near the California coast. And our exit ticket. And right after your exit ticket, I will be directing you to a USDA site to look up some of these common native species and non-native species. But our first exit ticket question asks us to, why should we have native species? And when do we use non-native species? Students, I hope you have a great and blessed day. Make sure your pencils are up and you're hard at work. Thank you.